Hey, it's Kristen here, and this is just a really brief introduction to myself as a practitioner and more importantly, the two modalities for change that I specialise in, one being PSYCH-K and the other one being the Emotion Code. And I just want to start out by saying that your life literally becomes a representation or is a representation of how you think and how you feel. So your beliefs create the filter through which you see the world, through which you see yourself and what you've come to know as your life, and then your feelings are how you experience it. Because at the end of every experience that we ever have, what we're left with is a feeling. And then our feelings tend to validate the thoughts that we have, and then our thoughts tend to perpetuate our feelings. So if we have an aspect of our life that we're not happy with, that we want to change, it could be something recent or it could be something that's been going on for a very long time, or you've experienced something in your life in the past that's been extremely traumatic, you can get into this cycle of feeling bad and thinking bad and feeling bad and thinking bad, and it seems very, very valid, but how do you actually get off that mouse wheel? And this is where modalities like PSYCH-K and the Emotion Code are really amazing. And the difference between those is that they can actually get change in a way that your traditional talk therapy or psychotherapy or psychology potentially doesn't quite hit the mark. So this might resonate with you if you're somebody that has spent quite a lot of time over the years in therapy of some kind, and you've definitely moved the needle, but you're not feeling how you want to feel, or you've spent quite a few years sort of studying personal development or spend a lot of time in that space through learning, is that you can know better but not necessarily be doing better. So I want to answer that for you. So if you think of yourself a bit like an iceberg, and sitting above the waterline is that little tip, it's about the 5% of the iceberg, and then sitting underneath the waterline is the other 95%. Well, that really represents you. And so this little tip of the iceberg, this is this aspect of you that knows that you want something different in your life. It knows you want to feel better, and it knows you want to do better. And that's the aspect of you that sort of shows up, has conversations with your friends or conversations with yourself, or is where talk therapy sits. And this is a very intellectual space where you end up knowing more, and it can definitely move the needle for you, but it's only going to take you so far. If you really want to create permanent and sustainable change in your life, you've got to get underneath the waterline, because this stuff here is actually what's driving your behaviour. And that explains a lot why you do know better, but you somehow seem to sabotage your efforts. And so this is where I operate as a facilitator, is that the Emotion Code and PSYCH-K literally come beneath the waterline. And I spend less time up here talking about your stuff. You probably know enough about your stuff, you don't need to talk about it. I'm about getting you change, and it's about getting you fast and sustainable change as quickly as we can, and as much of it in a session as we can. So onto the Emotion Code really quickly, to give you a perspective on that, is that throughout our lifetime, from the time we're born to up till now, we have experiences that are not particularly pleasant ones, and some of them can be really traumatic. And we also too have the perception of trauma in our life as well. And so on this timeline, we'll trap emotions in our body. We don't trap positive emotions because we feel them and we process them, we move on from them. Whereas negative ones and negative experiences, we don't necessarily have the tools to process it properly, and those emotions trap. And they create havoc in our body. Think of them like low vibrational frequencies of energy, which is essentially what they are. But we can also trap emotions in our mother's stomach. So when we're growing, we're in utero, we can trap emotions from our mum. We can also inherit emotions at the time of conception. And every single one of these negative emotions is literally like junk in your vessel. It is the emotional roadblocks that create havoc for us and potentially prevent us from moving in the direction of where we want to go. And so the Emotion Code very quickly decodes what those emotions are. And if you come to a session with me, you can literally say, look, I've got this area of my life where I've had trauma in the past, I've had so much talk therapy, I still don't feel better. we can very quickly check to see if you've got any trapped emotions from that event, and release them so quickly. It's the most beautiful, gentle modality. And the way that we release them is just using a magnet along your main meridian to literally neutralize the frequency of that emotion. And the beautiful thing is that once the emotion has been resolved or dissolved, it's gone. It doesn't come back. And it doesn't mean that, oh, you know, now I had feelings of depression and now I'll no longer have those emotions ever again. It's not about that. It's remembering that your trapped emotions are emotional memories. And so what we're doing is we're removing those emotional memories from your vessel so that you can start to feel better. And then the PSYCH-K is very similar, but it's actually addressing your thinking. So it again goes in behind door number 1, and we go exploring to see what your beliefs are that are potentially preventing you from creating and experiencing the things that you consciously know you want now. So they're really both really powerful tools for change because they go beneath the waterline. And the difference between these modalities, one of the greatest differences besides creating sustainable change, is that you don't need to talk about your stuff. So I'm a therapist that the less time you spend sitting up here talking about your stuff, the more time that we are not spending time creating change. So you can keep your private stuff to yourself. If you do want to share stuff with me, that's fine. It's obviously a very confidential space, but hey, as a practitioner, I'm all about getting you from where you are now to where you'd rather be, because I know for myself through my own journey, I don't want to spend any longer in my own junk than what I need to. I don't want to spend any longer sitting somewhere that I don't want to be. I'd rather be moving from where I am to where I'd rather be in the shortest time possible. So I tend to bring that kind of attitude into my sessions and say, hey, let's just move you as quickly as we can and start to getting you some really, really great change in your life. So I just want to really briefly say that how I access the subconscious mind is through muscle testing. We are literally energy, we're particles of energy, and then we also too have an electromagnetic currency that goes through us. And the subconscious mind is just a memory bank. It is your database of all of your memories, of all of your emotional memories and all of your mental and belief memories. So it knows absolutely everything about you, from the physical aspects of yourself, your DNA, what's happening at a cellular level, but it also knows every single emotion that you've ever felt, every single emotion that's trapped in your body, where it's trapped, and exactly what kind of havoc it's playing. It also too knows every single belief that you have about yourself and the world and every aspect of your life. And so by using muscle testing, we literally just ask questions of your database. And it doesn't give you sentences, it will literally give you a yes/no answer. And the way that it does that is a strong muscle response, where you can hold strong, means yes, and a weak muscle response means no. And so the best way to kind of demonstrate this is if you have ever had a point in your life, and it probably has happened quite a lot, where you're just feeling a bit flat. And I'm not talking physically flat because you're exhausted. I'm talking you're just a bit emotionally flat. You've got stuff going on in your life that's taking a toll on you. And when you go to physically do things, even just get out of bed as an example, and you don't feel motivated because you've really got this negative thoughts and feelings going on, your body doesn't actually want to go, like your muscles don't want to go. And so that gives you probably the best kind of look at how muscle testing works, is that if you've got any negative thoughts, or you've got a no, or something that the subconscious mind doesn't agree with, it's going to give you a weak response. But when you feel vibrant, you get a strong response. And that's exactly how we muscle test to go exploring. And then, like I said, the emotion code is really easy. It's just releasing these trapped emotions with a magnet. And PSYCH-K has a series of what we call balances, again, that are very gentle and non-invasive, that help to change those beliefs, reprogram them. So you might be familiar with hypnotherapy, that goes into the subconscious mind. Well, PSYCH-K is a lot faster. You don't have to lay down, you don't have to get into a hypnotic state, we don't need to, be talking about anything or imagining anything. It literally is a very quick technique for rewiring your software for the destination where you want to go or what you'd rather experience. And so using both of these modalities, a really great example is that if you think of an air balloon with a basket, and your basket's full of lead weights, and your basket literally can't get off the ground and it's really crowded, and then you get frustrated because you're stifled and you're stuck. Every time you release a trapped emotion, or I help to facilitate that for you, you're throwing out lead bars out of your basket. So it's very common to feel a lot lighter. You could feel very differently emotionally straight away, or it might take a few days for that to happen. But you're clearing out space, you're clearing out clutter, you're quietening all of that white noise that's been going on in the background for years. And then once your basket's kind of up off the ground, the PSYCH-K is really about rewiring your sat-nav. It's like, okay, you're up, now where do you want to go? And let's make sure that your programming is wired, your mental programming is wired for the destination of where you want to go. And so what you can expect to see using both modalities is that you start to achieve some of your goals with a lot more ease and a lot more grace. So that gives you a little bit of insight. And just a tiny little bit about me. I've spent probably it's been 25 years of organically studying human behaviour. And it was only through my own experience of being in a real valley and knowing I needed to get my way out. And I picked up a little book that introduced me to this concept that, your thoughts create your reality. And that was the spark that inspired what is now a 25-year journey of learning. I'm a real learning nerd. I love to learn, and human behaviour is, I'm really passionate about it, obviously. But I know that I sort of got 20 years down into my learning, and whilst I definitely moved the needle on my own life, just had grown so much as a person, I still wasn't getting the change in certain areas that I wanted, and had huge amounts of frustration over knowing better but not being able to do better. And then in came PSYCH-K very quickly. I asked some pretty big questions, and in it came and consumed every modality within, or every program within that modality that I could. And then still understanding that addressed the how we think part, but the how we feel part, I still didn't have a really fast tool for change for that. And then just recently finished my certification in the Emotion Code, that I can now bring both of these to you. And that brings me to my absolute passion, that the driving force behind everything I do is not just for myself, although that's the primary reason why I've done a lot that I've done, is to kind of be able to get the most out of myself and my life, but because I'm really passionate about helping other people do the same. It really lights me up to be able to see somebody that's really struggling with an area in their life, and then be able to facilitate something really easily and gently. It's just they're such beautiful modalities for creating change, and then being able to help people make that change and just seeing the shift in their life. So that's really the driver behind why I bring it to you with such passion, and have been very intentional about the modalities that I've chosen, because I don't want you to sit where you're sitting not happy for any longer than what you need to. Let's start to just create some change, and I believe I've found two modalities that do an awesome job with that. So if you feel inspired, my advice to people is just come and experience one session, because I think you'll find out pretty quickly whether you feel like these modalities are right for you, and come and do it, because then you'll get to experience the change. So I look forward to helping you if you feel inspired, and by all means shoot me some questions. I'm always open to those, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you at some stage in a session. Okay, bye for now. Bye-bye.